Let's begin. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how to create custom buttons for Adobe Captivate. And I'm going to do a little something different in this presentation. I'm actually going to use PowerPoint. And those of you might laugh a little bit and wonder, well, why on earth is he going to use PowerPoint? But I found a lot of my clients for e-learning may not necessarily have the access to Illustrator or Photoshop, the one you would typically use as a graphic designer to create buttons and graphics or something like that. So I'm going to actually use PowerPoint because more often than not, they're going to have at least access to PowerPoint to do this. And PowerPoint's actually a relatively quick way to create some buttons that would still be functional in Captivate. If you have access to Illustrator and Photoshop, although I'm not going to present on how to create them in an application like that, because chances are, if you have it, you're probably going to know how to use it or something like that. But we want to focus on creating buttons for Captivate and not necessarily the tool to create them. So I've just built a very basic multiple choice question slide here. And as you can see, the default buttons in Captivate, really, no matter what you choose here as your default, are always quite hideous. So what we want to have happen here is we want to use something else instead of the basic buttons that we see here. So we're going to utilize a tool, and you can use whatever tool you want to create an alternative for those buttons. So what we're going to do is just create a graphic that's going to replace the buttons that we have there in Captivate and make them a little bit more, just a little bit more exciting for us than what we have to start with. So I'm just going to come down here and insert a shape for myself. And we've got rounded shape there. We'll go ahead and select. And we'll just draw a very, very basic, something that we can use as a button for ourselves. And if you wanted to put some text in here, you could, add some quality text and format it a little bit more for yourself to find out, precisely what you want your button to do. We're going to go ahead and just leave it as is and keep it. And I'm just going to go here to File and Save As. And this is an important step of the process, is a Save As process. Pick the desktop or wherever you want to save it. And I'm going to save it as a particular type of name. I'm going to do, let's see, we'll just do, button underscore up, because this is going to be our up state. You must have underscore up for your button as your button name. You can have whatever it is as a prefix before that, but you need to make sure that you include underscore up dot file name. Those of you that are Flash users will recognize these types of states. You have your up state, your down state, your over state. So when your mouse reacts to the button on the stage, you get different visual indications of what your mouse is doing on that particular button. We do not want to save it as a PowerPoint. So actually what we want to do here is go back here and do a Save as Picture option. Took me a while to find that. And then we're going to go ahead and here we'll just do button and we'll underscore up. And we'll save it back instead of our pictures. I'm going to go back to my desktop here. All great artists save your desktop, correct? And then we'll just select desktop here as a ping file. We do want it to be transparent. So, ping is going to get a good option for us. It's good color there. We've got a little subtle gradient there that's happening with our button. So that's going to be a good selection for us to go with. If we had, say, large areas of solid color, then a GIF would be a little bit better option for us in terms of file format. But since we have that gradient, we'll pick ping. And then we will minimize this. And notice it's really already trimmed. Those from Photoshop know the whole trim process here. And just taking a quick look at what we got, we've got a pretty decent looking button there. It has a little drop shadow there. Everyone's happy. So that's something that we want to utilize. So I'm going to go back to my presentation, and I'll go back to modify this particular button that we have here. And we will just select some color points here and kind of format our shape a bit to something a little different. And we'll go ahead and say, well, I want to kick back by color, and maybe I'll just make it a little bit lighter and go back there. And wow, that's fabulous. I will go ahead and save as picture once again. Go to my desktop. It recognizes my desktop, and I'll do button. Same process, but still I'll do underscore instead of up. I'll do over, and then I will go ahead and save again, minimize PowerPoint. And now I've got two options here for my buttons, and that's going to suffice. If you wanted to do up, over, that would be plenty for you. But if you want to add a little bit more, you could do it up, over, down if you want to. Down would be when you physically click on the button itself. So what that looks like, so if I click on here, get a little shadow around it. Things like that. You can do your up, over stage. So that's your 3 button stage for yourself. So I'm going to jump into Captivate, really our last part of the process. I'm going to come down here to say, well, just do my back button. And we'll go ahead and select the back button, and we do not want to select this, so we don't want to go crazy there. So we'll go back to button. And down on the button type, you want to drop down in this area and come to Image Button, and then you want to find your image button. You want to make sure that you select this Change folder icon here. That is, if you not already have that preloaded in there, you're going to have to load it from your desktop or wherever you saved it. Sometimes it's a little hard to find, so you want to make sure that it's right next to that. You might have to work with your Windows a bit to get to it. Go to my desktop, and I found my upstate first, which is what I want to start with. And you notice here, Enable, it shows you what type of image files that you have as an option. So you've got the GIF file there that we spoke of, and you've got your PNG. So we'll click Open. Click Open there. And voila, look at that. We have these as open, and as you roll over, you'll actually see that I do have a button state change for over. So it's already in play, and it works just fine. Now, if I clicked on the that down state that I mentioned, that would be, I physically click down on my mouse, even though you can't see it, that would change as well. So that's something that you have the option to as well. You want me to be careful. This is a little large, so obviously you would kind of determine, well, my submit button, come down here and find out, what size is this? What size is this puppy? And then you can kind of work from that point too, if you wanted to. Make sure when you're doing this that you're clearing your unused items in your library, so you're not left with buttons that you might not created that you don't really want. Keep your library clean and tidy. It's always a good idea. And that's going to have your button for you. So these are all that I've created. I've created them on my desktop, but keep in mind that they do need to be in the same file directory. And that is important because then Captivate will automatically recognize that you have an up and an over state and will automatically populate it without you having to go and doing something else. So really the main thing to keep in mind here as you do it is the whatever you want for the button name, but it has to be underscore up or underscore over for those particular states. You would start with up and then kind of work from that point to give you the appropriate button. And if you've got access to Photoshop or Illustrator, by all means, utilize those. Those will give certainly a lot more options for you. But that is how we create buttons inside our custom buttons inside of Captivate.